And what do you make of what Michel Barnier had to say in response to this draft text?
I think, Belle, it's probably summed up by there is a palpable sense of relief that finally, after 18 months of negotiations, nearly 2.5 years into this Brexit process, that there is a draft deal on the table, and one, it must be said, that Europe is pretty happy with. As you said, we heard from Michel Barnier, the EU's Brexit chief negotiator, last night in a hastily arranged news conference in which he set out why he thought that this was a good deal and a good deal for the European Union, because it did ensure that there will be no hard border in Northern Ireland. That essentially Northern Ireland, along with the rest of Great Britain, would remain inside the EU's customs arrangements during the transition period until a better trade deal was signed. And if that trade deal was not going to happen before the end of the transition in 2020, that there could be an extension to that as long as both the EU and the UK agreed. Also, of course, the EU is getting its divorce bill, some 45 billion euros. That will please particularly Eastern European countries, many of whom were concerned about the EU budget in the years ahead. And in addition to that, it seems that the rights of EU citizens, some 3 million of them in the United Kingdom, will be protected. So Michel Barnier was pretty happy, as it must be said were other European leaders. We heard from a whole series of them within a few minutes of Theresa May making that speech in Downing Street, almost, Bell, as if they were just waiting to press send, because we had, of course, no reaction at all yesterday. Guy Verhofstadt, he is the Parliament's Brexit coordinator. He said that this is welcome news. It provides protection of citizens' rights and avoidance of a hard border. But he did say he hopes someday that the UK will return to the EU. In addition to that, Jean-Claude Juncker, the EU Commission President, tweeted saying that he would recommend a summit take place following May's announcement. The Finnish Prime Minister said this was a decision that both sides needed to make, and that a final agreement should be in the offing. And the Austrian Chancellor probably summed up, I think, European opinion quite well, Bell, when he said he was very pleased the result is a good one.
And Darren, let's take a look ahead for the Brussels side. What will they be looking to next? Presumably the talk of this summit, this end of November special deal summit.
Yeah, indeed. So the choreography from this side today is that, within the next hour, we're expecting a press conference from Donald Tusk, the EU Council President, and Michel Barnier. Essentially, with Michel Barnier asking Mr. Tusk, through, it must be said, Jean-Claude Juncker, as these things are, to hold a special November conference. And we are expecting that probably to go ahead next weekend. November 25th has been talked about by many. That is the date that is likely to happen in Brussels, almost certainly. Then Michel Barnier is going to travel here to Strasbourg, in which he's going to meet with MEPs, not least of all the Brexit steering group, and brief them on the deal. And then the choreography for the next week is essentially trying to pin this deal down, trying to ensure that all the 27 leaders are on side. So we'll see another meeting of the EU ambassadors in Brussels, going through this 585-page document. Then we'll see a meeting of foreign ministers. Of course, officials will be working at a technical level still. And then, of course, next weekend, November 25th, that Sunday, will be the key moment in which the deal will be signed, and which Europe will say, this is our deal. And then it will be up to London, up to the UK Parliament ultimately, to accept it or indeed to reject it.